Our pledge is a symbol of our republic and all that it stands for. It is not racist. When I was in 4th grade, I was one of 5 kids in an all-black school. I moved 23 times before I turned 18. I love my country. My brother, 2-star general, has served under he was right on to General Petraeus. We've watched what's gone on in this nation. It's just the saddest thing to my heart that you people have chosen to believe the lie. The lie from the pit of hell. This country is founded on freedom, founded on God, and I stand behind her with all my blood in my body. Thank you.
I would like to inform you and make sure you understand that the Pledge of Allegiance is codified by federal law. It's the United States Code, Title 4, Chapter 1, Section 4, the pledge and the manner of delivery. And I do have a copy of that for you. I'll leave it on that table as I leave. For the last 10 years, my broken heart, for the last 10 years and currently going on today in this country, our country is besieged by an attack on the rule of law, on our institutions, and our sacred traditions. Absolutely under assault. And a lot of it comes from academia, from a compliant press, and a certain political party. And I will simply say to you today, this will be brief, if the Pledge of Allegiance to this great country, the greatest country in the history of mankind, the most prosperous and the most generous, if the Pledge of Allegiance is somehow offensive to you or obscene, I respectfully request that you step down from your position as a board member. Thank you.
This country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never.
What I'm trying to say is there was a lot of sacrifice that went into protecting what we are right now arguing. I am appalled because after hearing all this, I could feel my temperature rise, that Mr. Miller had actually gone in name-calling. I always, when I've taught conflict resolution, you always start with, I feel, not you did this and you did that. And here you have, it's racism, it's white nationalism, and it's divisiveness. That divisiveness is something I did not see in those 20 years in the military. We lived all together, whatever race we were. We went to chapels. We either didn't or didn't go. You know, it was a choice. And actually, I'm afraid for what's happening now. I'm 86 years old now, and I never thought that I would see people pitted against one another by color.
20 seconds remaining.
And so I'm more afraid of what all of you are doing by taking this stance. You didn't vote for it or anything. You arbitrarily now have become, in my estimation, an autocrat, someone that believes that you have it all right. You don't. So please consider the sacrifice, because freedom is not free. I've seen more division in the last 5 years, and I don't blame it on Trump either.
Time's up.
The divisiveness is political.
We are teachers, as was said, and for diverse ideas, including appropriate patriotism, by permanently reinstating the pledge. I encourage you to model free and open exchange of ideas by maintaining order, by creating a safe environment as you did today. Respect and learning do not occur when students are allowed to disrupt meetings and mock individuals with whom they disagree, or when a group is allowed to dominate the room with signs without even participating in any of the discussion. I hope that future Santa Barbara City College draws national attention because her students have learned to bring respect and order to the free exchange of ideas.
Contributed significant money to the SBCC Foundation. President Miller, I question your fitness to be a SBCC trustee. much less lead it. The pledge is not, as many speakers have mentioned, racist, nativist, or white nationalist. Where you have gotten that vile, revisionist poison and why you are unable to expel it with rational, critical thought is anyone's guess. Let me provide the Cliff Notes. The pledge's 31 words are a cultural touchstone of American ideal. They pay homage to the enormous sacrifices made. The pledge is an aspirational message for everyone's future, to form an even more perfect union. Mr. Miller, I don't request that you recite the pledge yourself. There's not a pop quiz. You don't have to say the words. It's not compelled speech. I ask only that the pledge not be banished so that others are free to stand up, put their hands over their heart, and say it with dignity and love. My final thoughts. If a publicly funded academic institution cannot protect the fundamental freedom of speech and ensure, as others have mentioned, diversity of thought, I really don't know what business you're in. Whatever you're doing in fomenting division and discontent, I, for one, have no interest in subsidizing it. Thank you.
We need to be way more engaged and serious about the issues our students of color, our women, our LGBTQ students face. Not this one. This is a distraction. Those are the issues that really actually matter. Those are the issues that I got elected to solve. We're told student success is the #1 goal of the board.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming?
Think about those two sentences. We're talking about night and day and things are going on. The British are shooting cannonballs at us for over 24 hours straight, and that flag never went down once, not once. But wait a minute, cannonballs are big. They kick out flagpoles. What held it up? The people held it up. We held it up. That's what happened. And we're not going to forget that. British weren't happy. They couldn't take the place. All right. There was hardly a gap in the view. It's amazing. We have earned that right to speak freely by this symbol that reminds us of it. Our flag and our pledge reaffirms the events of September the 13th, 1814. Regardless, the flag was there, and today, I and my friends will pledge once again our allegiance to the Republic for which it stands. Thank you.
Hi. My mother's family immigrated from Mexico in the early 1900s, and my father's side of the family from northern Italy, also in the early 1900s. My family has been in Santa Barbara since 1914. I brought a bunch of pictures because if anybody ever wanted to know how much some parts or many parts of the world really want to come to the United States, become citizens, work hard, be in coal mines, be from Italy and work in chorizo factories, all the different things that be poor. You know, my family didn't come here rich. They came here to become Americans. I grew up in a home where some members spoke Spanish, Italian, and English, and we all blended. It's an important part of being here, and we're proud to be Americans. We didn't let go of our heritage, but we blended in with this one. Glad to be here.
The board silencing a black woman once again made it clear that white supremacy is alive and well in Santa Barbara.
They respected the flag. They respected the Pledge of Allegiance. And it is in no way racist or detrimental to anyone. It is a spirit of unity and patriotism. And to say that the Pledge of Allegiance should not happen with your board, I find repellent. This is not right. Hate is not something that should be taught in schools. Respect is something that should be taught in schools and seems to be sadly lacking. And I suggest that you think about where your salaries come from. They come from hardworking people who pay taxes. And those taxes pay your salaries. Yet we are considered bad white people or bad patriots.
This country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never.
My parents gave me and my brother a gift of two people that they sponsored in 1957, refugees from Hungary. From my aunt and uncle-to-be, I learned about communism. I learned that they left Hungary when the Russians invaded. They gave up everything to be here. They became US citizens. They moved in with us. I didn't know what I was pledging about when I was a little girl, but I learned. I honored them. My uncle helped put the moon buggy on the moon. Neither one of them spoke English when they came here, but boy, did they understand what this country was about. I would like to ask you if all of the students who go to City College would be willing to die for our right to speak, our right of free speech, as so many in this room
30
are
seconds
willing
remaining.
to do. If they are not being taught how precious our country is, how much it needs protecting. Our Constitution and Bill of Rights are unique. There are other democracies in the world, but they are not like ours. I ask you to respect and to educate everyone on what this country truly is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Douglas Scott, followed by Grace Wild.
Douglas Scott. The principles contained in our Pledge of Allegiance and our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, are what make us an exceptional country. Our God-given rights and ideals. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery or bear false witness. Those are enshrined in our laws and our mores as a people. There are many countries around the world where life is cheap, where women are second-class citizens, where you are guilty till proven innocent. Those are the things that make this an exceptional country. If our young people aren't learning these lessons, I think it's a failure of our education system. You are responsible for educating these young people. And I think that if you don't believe in these principles, I just don't think you should be on a board of a public body.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my opinion that there's a hidden agenda in all this. And I think it's the further removal of any mention of God in the public square. Looking back through the pages of the nation's past, one truth becomes obviously clear. Historically, God cannot be separated from America. The first settlement established on the shores of New England in the 17th century, the Plymouth Colony, based their governing document, the Mayflower Compact, on the God Almighty in no uncertain terms. Generations onward, When the colonies could no longer bear the yoke of the mother country, these 13 colonies came together and agreed as one to be separated from England. The spirit of 76 produced the Declaration of Independence. Any reading of that document clearly shows an acknowledgement of God. The nation was forged in the crucible of revolution, in the darkest days of that struggle. In the Snow Valley Forge, the general of the army knelt down and prayed to God, asking for strength, success, and victory. The framers of our Constitution, almost without exception in their various writings, acknowledge God. The writings of the Founding Fathers reveal they were people of faith and did not hide their convictions. These few examples do not even amount
30
to a
seconds
foothill
remaining.
in the mountain of evidence of deity being in our institutions. The day will come where we all will be standing in front of the Creator, at which point some can explain to him in person why he doesn't exist. Others of us will bow down and express our gratitude for his hand upon America and thank him for the blessings he has showered upon this nation. Thank you.
Dave Bramson is next, followed by Marion Schipple.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, this is heavy stuff. Do I have time for a 20-second anecdote that'll cheer us up? Okay. My youngest son out there, girlfriend, who goes to City College, she has a 6-year-old adopted younger brother, and he said, "Do you say the Pledge of Allegiance in your City College classes?" And she said, "No, we don't." And he said, "Well, that's not a real school." All right, now, carrying on. This is an educational thing. We're going to learn an acronym today, KHA. KHA is an acronym. It's going to put into perspective how most of our public college boards and directors operate out of a certain set framework of perspective, KHA. Robert Miller's job would be best performed by deleting biases that label a foundational tradition like the Pledge of Allegiance as something perverse. The Pledge of Allegiance fosters camaraderie and reminds us that community, liberty, and justice have made the U.S. a great nation that millions are desperate to enter. Nothing is gained by such tactics. They are destructive and breed conflict. But Mr. Miller's left is empowered by this. The U.S. left is well defined by this acronym, KHA, which means keep hate alive. They attach false negatives to their opponents and attack institutions like the Pledge based on some sin of the past that is totally irrelevant today. No good Americans embrace or tolerate hateful attitudes out of the past or now, but Miller's left won't let that go. They are fueled by KHA, keep hate alive. They oppose speech that counters their ideology.
30 seconds remaining.
To invent nasty accusations about oppressive tradition based on some past aberration only proves the KHA acronym, keep hate alive. Falsely labeling the Pledge as perverse is not the action of a trustee whose job definition is to set aside personal feelings and protect the property of his constituents. Denigrating the Pledge is petulant and causes disruption based on a false premise. It is KHA, keep hate alive. I just encourage Trustee Miller to you can. The Pledge does not establish religion and does not violate Amendment Number 1. So tolerate it. Remember tolerance? It does not disparage anyone. To many, it is much more, but to you, it can be just historical. Don't be destructive for a false premise. Be tolerant.
Remind the audience, if they actually believe in democracy, that all of these people were elected freely by the community. They were not appointed, and they're not here for money or glory. So thank you. And I was made to say the Pledge of Allegiance from kindergarten to 7th grade, and I suddenly started to question what it was. It was meaningless being forced to say something. And when I switched schools, instead of saying the Pledge of Allegiance, we actually studied civics, and I believe this is an educational facility. It's an institution to teach. It is not military. It is not Congress. It is not here to pass laws. And we should really pick our battles and think about why we say the Pledge of Allegiance. It probably doesn't need to be said here. What we might need to say here is our mission cause. It would be far more appropriate. The world is not going to fall apart People are not going to become godless and hate the country because they don't say the Pledge of Allegiance. People are free to say it if they want to. It's right here. So thank you, and let us continue to be an educational institution, not a political and dividing one.
Thank you.
Finally, Raina Solomon. Raina?
I love it. Anyway, thank you for listening. I love you. You're not alone. All words of declaration. When you love someone, what do? You declare it. Outwardly, I love you. There's powers in the words we declare, and we declare the things that matter to us. We hold these truths to be self-evident. I have a dream. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the unified states for every citizen of America, and to the republic. Well, what is the republic? It's our home, for which it stands, one nation under God. And the Bible says that God is love. So under God, you are declaring one nation under love, declaring that there's more to life than just what we can see in this day, today. Indivisible, undivided, unified, standing strong together with liberty, freedom to be who God has created you to be in your uniqueness. Then justice for all. Justice for who? Whether you're Black, Asian, white, Native American, Latina, Eastern Indian, LGBTQ, young or old. Our Pledge of Allegiance declares all these things we hold true to our hearts as Americans. If we remove this Pledge of Allegiance, we say we do not believe in those things. We say we do not stand for those things here in Santa Barbara,
30
our
seconds
community.
remaining.
We pledge allegiance to this flag. The Bible says that God is love. So what do you say? Do you want a nation of love? Do you stand for those, your brothers and sisters, of every background, of every walk of life? I do. We stand as one nation under God, and we proclaim it, and we declare it out of our mouths, just like you declare, I love you, I'm with you, you're not alone. I pledge allegiance that we are one nation under God.
My name is John Buchek. I'm talking about the meaning of a flag. What is the flag? It's a symbol. It's not meaningless, it's meaningful. You might think of the iconic image out of World War II, Mount Suribachi, Iwo Jima, soldiers struggling to carry up the American flag. That has meaning. That's what we are, our culture. Just some background that we can all relate to. I grew up in Chicago when it was a crazy quilt of ethnic communities. It was not a big city, a lot of little communities, signage in all different languages. And we competed one with another. We came together when we went to high school, because there you had people, different ethnic backgrounds coming together, and we identified with our high school, playing football, playing basketball, playing baseball. The symbol, the school flag, was a unifying element. We were all together. That's what the flag does for us. And I'd like to bring up a painting, a copy of which I just got, by an artist called Schwartz. He spells his last name, capital A-R-T-Z.
30 seconds remaining.
Yes, he paints on American flags with the vertical stripes down. You have a sailing ship, sails full blown, leaving a harbor. There's choppy water, turbulent water. In the background, hazy, is the skyline of a city, maybe New York City. The title of that painting is called Hope. And that boat is sailing from its culture background into the future through all this troubled waters. And that's where we are right now. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Until I have the floor.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Linda Seals. I'm an attorney, retired from Santa Barbara County Council, and I put in 2 slips, one for general comment and one for the issue on the pledge. And what I wanted to say here is that what we're seeing earlier, although the students are upset, they need to understand that their behavior is being watched by lots of people, people who are investing, people who have chosen not to go to the fundraiser in April that the foundation is having, because they'll give their money to UCSB or to another college, another place where they feel like that they're getting a better education, and they're not allowing the students to run things, because they are here. The students are here to learn. They're to be educated. We want them to enjoy their experience here, but not to turn this into a free-for-all. And it's embarrassing, and for the people who say they're not going to subsidize any more of this, you've got to think about that. What's going to happen to the school? Where are these kids going to go to school if the school can't withstand all of this? So I'm being very practical and saying, think about what you're doing, educate these kids how they should be protesting, have some self-control, and act with some maturity. Tell the teachers to do the same thing, because we can't have instructors screaming, yelling, pounding, acting like little kids, and then expect that the public who wants to give donations of $1 million and more to help these kids to get a good education, decide to give their money to Westmont. That's the concern that I have. The image of the school is right out there, and we don't want to have people get the wrong impression just because of a dozen kids who think that they have the right to disrupt things. Thank you.
Later, and followed by Gary Vanderman.
Hello, so my name is Kay Jinglinder. I am a 16-year-old middle college student on campus, and for everyone here saying there are only old conservatives here, I would like to say that that is wrong. I am a 16-year-old conservative Jewish person, which in the intersectional hierarchy makes me about the same level as a slave owner, apparently. So I'd like to say, as much as people may think that because of my race and my quote-unquote lack of systematic oppression put against me, that my points are invalid, that's ludicrous. Everyone's seen struggle in their own form. The only form of struggle that should matter is that which is on a personal level, not that which you believe society has put upon you. You're at a free college giving you a free education. Quite frankly, I'd say if anything, it's left of center, and if anything, it's promoting your ideals more than it's hindering it. A teacher, Lindsay Moss, made a stupid choice of words at an equity conference. She was out for your own good, and she misspoke and said something that I will admit was foolish and dumb. She should not have said that. But that's all it was a misspeak. It was nothing more, nothing less. So for you guys to come up here and act like you've seen the horrors of life, and act like you've seen oppression, just know that you're not helping your case. Struggle is something like when I had to come to CC 4 days after my dad died, transitioning from a standard high school. That's struggle on an individual level. Name one time a teacher or anyone has come up to you because of your race. I doubt ever. And if they have, they should be fired. If someone comes up to you and bullies you for your race on campus, they should be kicked off campus.
30 seconds remaining.
But I believe that's already campus policy. Because if someone bullies you, they're jerks. That's what they are. So I'd like to leave with one quote. If you keep your child in a clean room his entire childhood, when he leaves, the common cold will kill him. All you're doing is making students that are ill-prepared for real life. Making students that are ill-prepared for opposition in an echo chamber in a state that's already the epitome of an echo chamber. So by removing the pledge and humoring these intersectional fallacies, you're not helping them. You're ruining them.
On this, it's because I'm going to do it with some conditions, because it's very clear that SBCC and in the United States, there isn't liberty and justice for all. You have black students, faculty, and staff coming to us and being marginalized on campus and not listened to here. And in the United States, you have black Americans incarcerated at incredibly higher rates than white Americans. You have the United States military going around the world, starting wars and bombing villages, and not protecting their freedoms, but bombing and killing people around the world. This country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never. And I don't know if we'll ever get there, but we're working to get there. But
to try to get this board to respond to the issue of racism. Okay, Clearly, there are people who don't want you to do that, and so they've manufactured an issue around the flag salute. But the issue really is, and has been for months, the issue of racism on our campus, and has been for years, I might add. This is not the first time that students have been harassed because of racist incidents that have happened toward them, not that they have committed. They are getting harassed because of behavior, the racist behavior of others.
Hi, my name is Scott Ruskamp. I'm a Santa Barbara resident. I've taken classes at SBCC. I'm close to a lot of members of the SBCC community. I have the privilege to be close to including members of color. I've been concerned about how people of color have been treated on campus, especially recently. I'm a member of the local Surge chapter. Surge is showing up for racial justice, and we have a Santa Barbara chapter. One of the things that's important to Surge is accountability to the people who are affected by racism, people of color. So that means that we need to listen to and take the lead from people of color when they're brave enough to take the lead and speak up, like Crystal, the young woman who just spoke up in front of us. So I'm here to support the two simple and reasonable requests being made by the SBCC students, faculty, staff of color. First, there needs to be external review board or ombudsperson to process complaints and grievances. Again, this is due to the pattern, the lack of follow through from administration. The ombudsperson must be selected in consultation with impacted students. You need to listen to and take the lead from the people who are impacted by racism. Selecting someone who's not approved by the groups, who you decide for the groups what you think is best, that's not an acceptable solution.
You have 10 seconds left.
Second, there needs to be meaningful anti-racism training for all employees and a long-term campus-wide anti-racism plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
The audience who was yelling at that woman. It was not any young person of color or otherwise who was irresponsibly interacting with that person.
Time is up.
Our students have respectfully
Please call the next
attempted to
speaker.
communicate with.
And then the board silencing a black woman once again made it clear that white supremacy is alive and well in Santa Barbara.
With this board for months, and they won't listen to us. They've never had a meeting for us where we all got to sit here and talk for 2 hours about our feelings.
The pledge, they didn't say anything about cleaning up the issues at SBCC or anywhere. And so many of the speakers spoke in a manner that actually engenders a non-inclusive culture for our students of color.
Nobody is listening. Nobody is helping.
You're out of order.
I know, you're out of order too because you are not serving our community.
Please sit
Why
down.
are you creating problems instead of helping us? I have never been so embarrassed in my life with people who are supposed to be responsible.
And
Do you
I can't read this
understand
next
that
one.
you
I think
are
it's
failing
Denise.
our school?
Please
All of us.
sit down.
If you
You're
fail
out of
the
order.
minority community, you fail us all because we are supposed to be one community at City College. I've worked there for 10 years believing that, and in the last year you have destroyed my faith in this institution.
I think
And it disgusts me that you would let these people come here and have 2
I'm
hours
trying
to talk
to
to
read
you.
this. It looks like well, I said something earlier to the effect that democracy is messy. It's also the system that I think works best for people. Certainly it works best for Americans. We have to learn to live with the messiness. The admonition I would offer is to see if we couldn't come to the point where we don't assume that if we disagree with each other that we are adversaries or that we are the enemy. The Pledge of Allegiance is going to be ours. I can predict that vote.
Thank you, Annette Cordero and trustees. I did fill out 2 speaker slips. I want the public record to show that the sheriff in attendance has stated that he refuses to keep any order to the meeting unless it's called for by the chairman, Miller. He said that there would be no citizen's arrest or no procedural judgment calls unless it was moved and seconded by the board. So I wanted you to know that. Second, for the record, I want to know the clock has not been run on other people giving public comment. Third, I want the record to reflect that Griffin and Thornburg is the attorney of record today for the trustees, the same attorneys that will be going to federal court next week to represent Santa Barbara Unified School District against Just Communities, with Just Communities against the community at large, who is faireducation.org. It appears to us that there is a definite conflict of interest. The reason why your meetings can go in complete disarray is because of the conflict of interest of Griffin and Thornburg representing both parties. If you're involved in a federal lawsuit on one side for the social justice warriors, some of us call them, because they are unruly at your meetings, then it is difficult, excuse me, I have the floor, it is difficult to represent the college, and I would think that you would know that as people of law, but that's an ethical issue. Third, I wanted to point out that the speaker who spoke to you, the biology teacher who overstepped her time by about 5 minutes, she has written into the channels and public comment that she would be embarrassed to work for City College. Her public comments have been reviewed.
Please allow the speaker to continue.
The clock has not stopped. May I say that every time that I am interrupted, the clock needs to stop.
You have 30 seconds, but we'll give you...
No, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. We'll give you extra
Excuse me,
time.
Mr. Miller, you're doing dual standards. I'm sorry.
We will give you extra time at the end. Please continue.
Thank you. I want you to know she's on the public record that she would be embarrassed to work at City College for the behavior of the college. Thirdly, or fourthly, whatever the number is now, I can't keep track, Annette Cordero did approach me during your recess to ask me to say that we do not know each other. Her son mentored my son, and I think this has become big business, and I want you to know that ideas will take over our college, ideas will take over our city, ideas will take over our country, and it's time. You have said as trustees you would get a neutral party.
You've been given extra time. Please wrap it up.
Sorry. But, see, I'm leaving, but they stay. You allow them to stay, and you won't call order.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you.
A lot of the people who came up and said liberty and justice for all and how great our country is didn't say a thing to make SBCC better at accomplishing the goal of liberty and justice for all. Like, I heard nothing from a single...
Let me just say by introduction that Dr. Beebe and several board members, including myself, decided this item should be on today's agenda for board action. I support the resolution. I've not changed my views on the pledge, but the interest of the college comes first. The controversy has been an unwelcome distraction from our primary goal to educate students and maximize their chances for success. Thus, I welcome board consideration of the resolution.
Restating the Pledge of Allegiance, but there's a resolution on the table to make it permanent. This is not the issue that affects students. Many of our students right now are homeless. Many don't know where the next food is going to come out from. That is the problem we face at City College. Thank you all for coming out. We need your support. Please join us. Join us and support our students. They need you. Thank you for coming out. We need the same energy to fight food insecurity in our campus. We need the same energy to fight housing insecurity in our campus. We need your donations, please.
There was some of you who don't come to our meetings very often, or maybe look at them. You heard people saying that nothing's been done, nothing's been done. And they may be pretty much right that they've seen being done. There's been a lot being done since they talked. There's been investigations conducted and ongoing investigations. Don't have all the results to display in public yet. These things take a little bit of time. Santa Barbara City College, like most educational institutions, and especially Santa Barbara City College, we have a very transparent form of government. We believe in complete transparency, and in fact, it's almost like managing by committee. It's almost at times hard to make decisions and then proceed, but When we write new policies or want to make a change, it goes through 3 different boards on campus and, procedures and procedures. So it doesn't happen real fast, but it also doesn't happen nothing happens without a lot of thought going into it. I, as a board member, heard every one of the complaints, and I attended every one of the meetings that the students came and talked to us about racism. And I've asked for reports on every one of those incidents. I still don't have all of those reports, but I am confident and have been told by more than one source that these reports are somewhat completed. Many are, and they are in process, and we will have them soon. It's really hard to take actions on things when you don't have facts. He said, she said, doesn't warrant immediate drastic action.
Have quiet, please.
It's my turn. I listen to you people out there. I give up.
With the person interrupting, be quiet. You've already been...
Well, I said something earlier to the effect that democracy is messy. It's also the system that I think works best for people. Certainly it works best for Americans. We have to learn to live with the messiness. The admonition I would offer is to see if we couldn't come to the point where we don't assume that if we disagree with each other that we are adversaries or that we are the enemy. The Pledge of Allegiance is going to be ours. I can predict that vote. But I don't assume that simply because you can recite the Pledge of Allegiance that you are a patriot. Neither do I assume that because you choose not to recite the pledge that you are not a patriot. I assume everybody who spoke tonight is a card-carrying patriot of the United States, and that you mean to behave that way. And I would offer the suggestion that one of the things that we can do most effectively is to help those who have served in the military as veterans, people who come back and who have great difficulty transitioning from military service into civilian life. There are things we can do to help that process, and I would think that would be certainly one indication of my patriotism, something that I do. I am also a veteran. We had a number of emails, some of which were, as Kate said, really, really terrible, vile. I've never been called those things before in my life. And the suggestion that nobody on this dais is a veteran was really offensive. And what I'm having to deal with is not to be offended, and just to assume that, okay, so there are people who don't know, and maybe they don't care. But I do care. I do care very deeply about this country. And therefore I will support this, because I want us to get back to the issues that have to do with teaching and learning and making sure that each student who attends Santa Barbara City College has an equal shot at succeeding. That's why we're here. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate the time. I know it's time-consuming. You sat here for hours and you've offered your testimony. And please understand that those of us sitting up here really do know how to listen.
So I think every trustee has spoken, so I would call for the vote at this time.
The board silencing a black woman once again made it clear that white supremacy is alive and well in Santa Barbara. I want to start by reiterating very clearly that this is a resolution to add the pledge after it hasn't been on for 60, 70 years. It's not to remove it. And that we're not removing the pledge, we're adding the pledge with this resolution. And that's We've never had it before, and we're adding it because 3 people asked us to. On the contrast, dozens and dozens and countless people have asked us to take action on the issues of racism and sexism and xenophobia on our campus, and I have yet to see action on the board level. As much as a lot of the people who came up and said liberty and justice for all and how great our country is, didn't say a thing to make SBCC better at accomplishing the goal of liberty and justice for all. Like, I heard nothing from a single speaker who said yes on the pledge. They didn't say anything about cleaning up the issues at SBCC. On this, it's because I'm going to do it with some conditions because it's very clear that SBCC and in the United States, there isn't liberty and justice for all. You have black students, faculty, and staff coming to us and being marginalized on campus and not listened to here. And in the United States, you have black Americans incarcerated at incredibly higher rates than white Americans. You have the United States military going around the world, starting wars and bombing villages, and not protecting their freedoms, but bombing and killing people around the world. This country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never. And I don't know if we'll ever get there, but we're working to get there. But this country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never. And I don't know if we'll ever get there, but we're working to get there. But it is a fool's statement to say that there is liberty and justice for all in the United States of America or in Santa Barbara or at Santa Barbara City College. And it's always elevated one religion over all others, even though there is a plethora and diversity of religion in the United States of America. So this country has never had liberty and justice for all. Never.
The only form of struggle that should matter is that which is on a personal level, not that which you believe society has put upon you. You're at a free college, giving you a free education. Quite frankly, I'd say if anything, it's left of center, and if anything, it's promoting your ideals more than it's hindering it. A teacher, Lindsay Moss, made a stupid choice of words at an equity conference. She was out for your own good, and she misspoke and said something that I will admit was foolish and dumb. She should not have said that. But that's all it was a misspeak. It was nothing more, nothing less. So for you guys to come up here and act like you've seen the horrors of life, and act like you've seen oppression, just know that you're not helping your case. Struggle is something like when I had to come to CC 4 days after my dad died, transitioning from a standard high school. That's struggle on an individual level. Name one time a teacher or anyone has come up to you because of your race. I doubt ever. And if they have, they should be fired. If someone comes up to you and bullies you for your race on campus, they should be kicked off campus.
30 seconds remaining.
But I believe that's already campus policy. Because if someone bullies you, they're jerks. That's what they are. So I'd like to leave with one quote. If you keep your child in a clean room his entire childhood, when he leaves, the common cold will kill him. All you're doing is making students that are ill-prepared for real life. Making students that are ill-prepared for opposition in an echo chamber in a state that's already the epitome of an echo chamber. So by removing the pledge and humoring these intersectional fallacies, you're not helping them. You're ruining them.
Gary Van